Hello, I am Baal Kadmon and I'd like to thank you for watching and or listening to this video. I hope you are doing well. I've been very busy and sort of a little bit in a cocoon. I haven't been as social recently, and as you know, over the last few months I was having some issues. I mean, I'm definitely better, but I'm slowly emerging. So if I owe you an email or a message, I will get back to you. I will. I'm very sorry. I've been a little bit in my own world recently. So in this video, I just wanted to provide you a video from my upcoming course on the Jinn. It's currently in pre-release until March 1st. I have module 1 and 2 uploaded if you are interested in watching it. You could get it at occultcourses.com/Jinn. And you can watch the first 2 modules, and then by March 1st, all the rest of the audios will be there. And videos, rather. So this video I'm going to show you is the creation of the Jinn within the Quranic concept. And I get into other things as well. And I really think you'll enjoy this one. Again, the course is available for pre-release at occultcourses.com/Jinn. I hope you enjoy the video. Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to give you a synopsis of the Quranic account of the genesis of the Jinn, right? Now, to be clear, the concept of Jinn existed before Islam, way before Islam. But, as these religions do, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, things start with them, right? So they think, well, no. Actually, the Jinn is an Islamic concept, but it is actually much older than that. But we're obviously, because we are dealing with the Jinn in sort of a broader way and then getting deeper, I have to use the accepted narrative so at least you could see how the concept became more popular, and it became more popular through Islam. So, Jinn, as I sort of intimated, is a subject that is deeply rooted in Islamic theology, and it's derived from the Quran, which, by the way, is the holy book of Islam. So understanding the Quranic account of the creation of the Jinn, it gives you the insight into their nature and their purpose and the role that they play. And we'll go into that a little bit here. So the Quran explicitly mentions that the Jinn were created from fire, a fact that distinguishes them from, obviously, humans and angels. In the Quran, chapter 55, verse 15, or also known as Surah Ar-Rahman, it states, "And he created the Jinn from smokeless flame of fire." Now, this smokeless flame implies sort of this pure elemental form of fire. It's untainted by the physical impurities that is usually associated with fire, right? The smokeless aspect of this suggests sort of a form of energy that is more metaphysical and not necessarily bound by physical laws specifically, right? Like some scholars like Ibn Abbas and Al-Hassan say that it's actually from the edge of the flame that the Jinn were created, which I suspect doesn't produce smoke as much, I guess. I've never really examined the edge of a flame. Now, of course, this is in contrast to humanity's creation. One verse before that, chapter 55, verse 14, it says, "He created man from sounding clay like pottery." And the reason why they mention these 2 verses back to back is really to show you the fundamental differences in the essence of humanity and the Jinn. Now, the Quran also indicates that the Jinn were created before humans. In the Surah Al-Hijr, or Quran chapter 15, it says, verse 27, "And the Jinn were created before from scorching fire." Now, this is suggesting that the Jinn inhabited the earth prior to the creation of Adam. So their prior existence implies that they had established some type of civilization or societies before humans, because the Jinn are known to have very extensive societies. Now we need to get into this topic, which is very important, is Iblis. A very significant aspect of the jinn's creation narrative involves the story of Iblis. Now, Iblis is a jinn who refused to bow to Adam. While often mistaken for an angel in this context, the Quran clarifies his origin. Chapter 18, verse 50, it says, "He was one of the jinn, and he disobeyed the command of his Lord." Now, I'd like to say this is very different from how the West views this. The West views that this angel, by the way, it's not Lucifer. It's never been Lucifer. That's a mistranslation. Samael, okay, the angel or demon Samael, refused to bow before humanity. And so Iblis and Samael are actually sort of the same character, but in Islam, he's a jinn. In Judaism and by extension Christianity, he was an angel and then turned demon. And in Kabbalah, he is like the king of the left-hand side. So the story is very, very different. Now, what's interesting about the Iblis story is that the jinn, because remember, Iblis did not bow before man. And I'm sorry, I didn't even quote it. I should. Quran 18, verse 50, it says, "He was one of the jinn and he disobeyed the command of his Lord." This shows you that the jinn possess free will. That unlike angels who are inherently obedient to God's command, Iblis' refusal was out of ignorance, was not out of ignorance, but a conscious act of disobedience that was rooted in pride and arrogance. So you see what they did here. Iblis is technically Samael, right? I mean, the stories are similar. But you see, in Islam, they couldn't fathom, or they didn't allow the concept that angels could disobey God. Okay, and Samael was an angel before, and then he disobeyed God. So what they did is, instead of making Iblis originally an angel, he's a jinn, because jinn have full free will, whereas in Islam, angels do not. So so Samael's story wouldn't work in Islam, because they're like, wait a minute, if angels have no free will, how could Samael have rebelled? You see, so they said, all right, let's get rid of that and say, okay, well, actually, it's a jinn, so that makes sense. Jinn have free will, right? So in the Quran, the passage where Iblis refuses to bow or disobey the command of his Lord, he gives a reason, right? He gives a reason in chapter 38, verse 76, and he says, "I am better than him. You created me from fire and created him from clay." So what he's saying is that he's highlighting, Iblis is asserting a belief that he is superior because of his fiery essence, and also because he, quote-unquote, came first. And of course, this set the stage for the relationship between humans and the jinn that would follow. And the Quran emphasizes, though, that both jinn and humans were created to worship God. In chapter 51, verse 56, it says, "And I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me." So this already establishes the primary purpose of the creation, placing both humans and jinn on sort of like a similar spiritual footing regarding their obligation toward God. So the capacity for worship implies that the jinn possess a consciousness, an intelligence, and a free will, that they are capable of belief and disbelief. Now, in another chapter, chapter 72, verse 1, we have something very interesting. It says, "Say, O Muhammad, it has been revealed to me that a group of the jinn listened and said, 'Indeed, we have heard an amazing Quran.'" And what this acknowledges is that certain jinn can embrace Islam. In other words, they are not just these beings that are outside of religion. They have the same obligation to listen to the Quran. So there are technically Muslim jinn. You know, so that's so interesting, right? Because when we think of angels or demons in the Western conception, we don't think of them as being Jewish, right? There's no angel who's Jewish, right? Or angel who's Christian. We don't think about those terms. It's sort of like they just exist in those traditions. Where in the Quran and in Islam, the jinn can be of different religions. They are just like us in that way. So they can choose a different religion. So, for example, in that same chapter 72, verse 11, there's an interesting quote that says, "And among us are the righteous, and among us are others not so. We are of divided ways." And what this is an admission by the jinn that reflects the various spectrum of morality and belief within their ranks. So they mirror human societal structures in that way. Now the jinn interacted quite a bit with the different prophets, right? We know in the Western tradition, how the demons interacted with King Solomon. Well, Islam believes the same, and I'm going to go deeper into that a little bit later, but in the story of Islam, or rather in Islam, instead of Solomon interacting with demons, he's actually interacting with the jinn. And it says in Quran chapter 27, verse 17, it says, "And gathered for Solomon were his soldiers of the jinn, and men and birds, and they were marching in rows." So the jinn served him in various capacities, including the construction and divining of treasures. So it says in chapter 34, verse 12, it says, "And of the jinn were those who worked for him by the permission of the Lord. And whoever deviated among them from our command, we will make him taste of the punishment of the blaze." Now we could see that Solomon, by grace of God, could control these jinn to do various different tasks, right? So this is essentially the same concept as the 72 demons story that we see in Western occultism. And again, I'll get into that a little bit later. But we see the difference is that this is by God's decree, permission of God, whereas in the Western tradition, Solomon was sort of using magic, right? Which was not considered to be divinely ordained. So it's a very different take, and it's a different type of entity. In Islam, it's the jinn. In the Western Judaism and Islam, or rather Western occultism, it's demons. But it's the same tradition. It's just couched differently. And just the last part of that verse where it says, "We will make him taste of the punishment of the blaze," just means they're going to throw them in hell, right? Now, the Quran describes measures taken to prevent the jinn from eavesdropping on the divine counsel, right? So it's interesting, even though they are spiritual beings, they are unlike angels, right? In the sense that they don't necessarily have special rights in the spiritual realm. So in Quran chapter 72, verse 8, it says, "And we have sought to reach the heaven, but found it filled with powerful guards and burning flames." So in this verse, the jinn attempted to ascend to the heavens to obtain knowledge of the unseen, but were thwarted by, angels and other entities in burning flame. So despite them being metaphysical in origin and even created in a way that is, I guess, in some ways superior to humans, but not quite, and I'll get into that later, they do have this limitation. And I think that's very interesting. So the Quranic account of the creation of the jinn is really a foundational understanding of it provides an understanding of their nature and purpose. The fact they were created from smokeless fire, they are endowed with free will and capable of righteousness and transgression. I mean, it's amazing. Whereas we don't see this as often in the Western tradition. Yes, we have angels who fail and rebel, but the concept of free will in both those traditions is very different. Because in Islam, angels don't have free will. And in certain areas of Judaism, they also don't have free will. But it depends where you go, right? Certain Jewish texts will say they do. Certain Jewish texts say that they don't. And I actually created a video about this, and I can I'll put a link in the section where you can see some of the text, or you can just look at the screen and you'll see what it looks like, and you can go to YouTube and get it. With that, that is the end of this video. I will see you in the next one. There you have it, a video from my upcoming program, Spirits in the Sand, about the Jinn. You can get it in pre-release now at occultcourses.com/Jinn. And that's it for me. I hope everything is well. I will speak to you soon. So mote it be.